I'm really honored to have Brat and Judy here. First of all, thank you for putting this together. They actually went live because I didn't know what to do. But I'll let them also introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Well, I'm Brat. Hi, you guys. I'm a rapper, soon-to-be mom, which I'm very proud of, with the help of Hope Fertility, and I'm just happy to be here. And we love Dr. A.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And this is my wife, Judy. Go ahead, beautiful.
I'm Jessica Judy Harris Dupart. That is a very long name. And I am her wife, CEO of Kaleidoscope.
And my baby mama. Sorry.
CEO of Kaleidoscope Hair Products, and we are happy to be here with Dr. A and just gracious to be able to talk through all things infertility during Infertility Awareness Week.
Yep.
Speak about our journey to the best of our abilities as much as we can.
Right.
And just give some insight on some stuff that we learned along the way.
Yes.
And also talk about, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but talk about the $10,000 grant that we will be giving away. So,
Yes, which is very, very helpful because sometimes that's the elephant in the room, the price of infertility.
Right.
But first, we're just going to talk about the journey, talk about, their experience, what they've learned, what we can educate you on. Starting off, I think first time I met Brat and Judy, the first thing is, okay, this is a same-sex couple, right? What are your options? And I always like to ask, well, what did you think your options were when you first came to Hope Fertility? What were you thinking in terms of, okay, how are we going to get pregnant?
That's a good question. I think that I just heard that it was possible that we could get pregnant, and I definitely thought that she would be probably the person to carry the baby. And I was just I just wanted to know what it was we could do. I really had no clue of exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. So we were referred by Dr. Jackie because she knew what we wanted to do. And then we came here, and then you guys, explained everything and made everything very clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because initially you were told, unfortunately, you couldn't carry.
Right.
You were told you couldn't carry.
Because I have fibroids,
correct,
too. Yeah.
You had fibroids. And,
yeah.
And the first time we met, I think, if you recall, I said, let's just take a look at both of you.
You sure did.
Let's look at your ovaries. Let's look at your uterus. Let's see, okay, Brat, can you carry? Can we use your eggs? Or Judy, is it going to be you? Can you carry? Can we use your eggs? And we did ultrasounds on both of you, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, after we did ultrasounds, we looked at your ages, we looked at your egg quantities. I think the decision was like, you know what, Judy, let's use your eggs. Mm-hmm. And Brat, I think you can carry. I think there's a shot at this. I don't think you cannot.
That was the best news ever.
Right, because I remember the first time you came.
I was so disappointed. Yeah.
So sad.
I know.
You had that over your head. I was told I cannot carry.
Yeah.
So having, that's why a second opinion is always good. Right?
Yes.
I was like, and I respect my colleagues.
Right.
When I saw you, I was like, I think we can do this.
Right.
I think we can do this.
Well, it wasn't Dr. Jackie who told me I couldn't carry.
Jackie,
Dr. Jackie referred us to you after I told her that.
Right.
It was somebody else that was, no.
Yeah, we have been to a couple of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they were not as caring, as nurturing, and as patient as you guys were. So we really appreciate that, because it's a serious subject, and you want people to be caring because, it's about love, and it's serious. It's about bringing a child into the world with somebody you love, hopefully, and we want it to mean something to the doctor and the staff too, So it's important. It was important, and that's what
the other doctor was asking us about our husband.
Girl, it was a male doctor, y'all, and nothing against male doctors, but he was a little bit insensitive. And he was just like, "Well, where's your boyfriend? Where's your husband?" We sitting there holding hands, do it look like she needs, But anyway, yeah, we're just grateful to have come to Hope Fertility, period.
Right, and I do want to mention that I liked that you were both open because I think there was a desire, I could sense a desire that you also maybe wanted to use your eggs. But after the discussion, when I was like, Brat, I had 48. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of success, we're talking single digits.
Yeah.
We can still have this experience together where you will still carry, but the best path would be to use Judy's eggs.
Yeah.
Judy is younger.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad.
I think you checked and I had 0.
You did.
All my eggs had evaporated, y'all. And turned to powdered milk.
Right. But you were very open, because sometimes that could paralyze people.
Yeah.
But you were open when I said, you know what, Brat, you can't use your eggs, but you can still be a part of this.
Right.
You can still be a part of it.
Which still made me happy to know I could be a part of it. You know?
Right. So, I think also just to expand, Brat and Judy brought up an important point. When you have a same-sex couple, it's important to be sensitive and not ask, where is your boyfriend? They don't have a man.
Okay.
And they don't need one. We can use something called donor sperm.
Right. Correct.
Donor sperm. And with same-sex couples, donor sperm, there are a few options. You can just inject the sperm. That's called IUI, or you could do IVF. And we discussed that IVF has the best path forward, best chance of success given Judy's age and Brad's age, and we can test embryos. All of that is like a nuanced discussion, but and every patient is different. But based on their evaluation, we decided that was the best path forward.
So layman's terms,
Yes.
we could have bought sperm and squirted up one of us,
Right.
or we could have did the process that we did where we got the sperm, you got the egg, you made the embryo, and then we did the transfer.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. And that process is called IVF, in vitro fertilization.
And the other one is called what?
IUI, insemination.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about, we've decided we're going through IVF. What was your knowledge of IVF? Did you know anything? Have you read about it? Or was this just like from scratch?
I didn't know anything. I didn't know that you lose your eggs, like after a certain age, that they just go away. I didn't know that either. I didn't realize that they diminish a long time.
Right.
And I definitely didn't know about shots and I didn't know about all the medication.
We were not educated at all.
I really thought we came here and this would be like a 2 to 4 week process. I didn't realize it would be lengthy of having to do, the medication and then the shots after the medication and all of the different visits.
Medicines.
Yeah, and even the different visits to make sure that you're progressing properly.
Yeah, so let's break down what Judy said, because very important points. As a woman gets older, egg diminishes. I think it's very surprising. A lot of women don't know that. Once you're in your 20s, 30s, your egg count starts to go down, down, down.
A lot,
which is why, unfortunately, when Brat came in at 48, we couldn't find anything. Whereas Judy, we found eggs, right? Yeah. So the first thing I think is important to impart on the audience is, as women, our egg quantity diminishes. Mm-hmm. That's just a given, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's trying to decide, what's the best treatment? IVF is usually, I won't say always, every patient's different, the best path forward when you're older, when you're in your 40s. Mm-hmm. And that involves taking shots, right? Because the shot is to grow your follicles. So the eggs are in little follicles. Think of it as egg houses in your ovaries, right? So they have to get bigger. So you take shots for about 10 to 14 days, which was Judy's part. She took shots for about 10 to 14 days. And when you're taking the shots, you have to come frequently. We have to make sure the shots are working. We have to make sure you're responding to the medicine, because sometimes we give you medicine and you're not responding. We have to increase the dose. Right. Sometimes you're responding too vigorously. We have to decrease the dose. So for about 2 weeks, you really would be very, very familiar with your fertility clinic. In Judy's part, she's coming every 2 to 3 days just to make sure, Judy, are you on track? Are you responding to the medicine? And we're doing ultrasounds. Are we seeing what we need to see? Because this is all important. This is how we know, this is working. And you took shots for about 2 weeks to help, again, stimulate the eggs. This is part of the IVF process. Right? So after we saw, Judy took shots for 2 weeks, then we do the egg retrieval process, right? Which is putting you to sleep and extracting the eggs. How was that process for you?
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Was not
I didn't necessarily feel anything. I think when I left, I think building up to it, because you kind of make the eggs bigger, you almost feel, I'm not gonna say like bloated or whatever, but you kind of feel larger than. And the process of it, getting put to sleep, I didn't feel anything. I don't remember feeling anything. Went home.
Right.
Make sure you guys speak up. It's kind of far away.
Okay, sure. Brad said we should speak up, so we're going to speak up. So the egg retrieval process was very easy, right? Brad and Judy, I'll say Judy, you were very, very good patient.
Yes.
She
yes.
really was.
You were a trooper, babe.
I'm not saying because she's right next to me.
I had to give her the shot right before, and I hated it. Like, you know, in her stomach, like that's like a serious thing to have to do to give your loved one like shots, especially if you don't like needles. You know, so there's a lot to the process. It's not just something easy that you take a pill and you get turkey bacon and you're ready. It's just it's a full process, and you have to have a doctor's, you know, care and come to the doctor often and really pay attention to your body and the things that are going on.
Right, exactly. It's a very involved process, and it's good to have great support. So Judy had an uncomplicated process up until the egg retrieval, right? Happy to say we got 19 eggs.
Yes.
Right? You're okay with me sharing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
17 fertilized, 8 embryos, okay? And we had a number of normal embryos. So we were very, very excited about that.
Yes.
However, something happened afterwards, right? Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, but what's the technical term for it?
OHSS, hyperstimulation syndrome.
Hyperstimulation syndrome is kind of what happened. So after the eggs were retrieved, it was about a week.
About a week later, yeah.
Yeah, about a week later, I started kind of feeling heavier. Like it's almost like I was swelling or something. And I was in contact with the doctor, and she was like, well, give me your symptoms. And I was like, I think I'm feeling okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just a little bit of...
She did say that.
Monitor it, but then when I laid down and I had difficulty breathing, I called and I was like, I think I'm gonna go to the emergency room because I'm having difficulty breathing. She said, yes, go now. So we went to the emergency room, and we thought, you know, I thought they just were gonna like drain me or something, you know, like I just felt like I was retaining water because I was swollen everywhere. But then no, they admitted me, and it was like, well, you have multiple blood clots in your lungs. And I was like, excuse me? Right. You know, and then at this point, you know, especially at a hospital, they're giving you the list of things that can go wrong. So, you know, you're about to get admitted. This is an emergency thing, and you know, all kind of different things. I'm like, well, let me call my children and tell them I love them. You know, I'm texting my children, hey, I've been admitted to the hospital. Everything's gonna be fine, but I love y'all. You know, so. Yeah, and they put me on blood thinners, and I was probably in the hospital 3 to 5 days on blood thinners until...
It felt like forever. I think it was like a week.
Right, she didn't want to leave. I had to make her leave to go to work. She did not want to leave. I was like, beautiful, everything's going to be fine. I'm in good care. Do not stay here. She didn't want to leave at all. And she didn't leave until she felt like somebody was going to be there with me.
Right. Yeah, so what Judy described is OHSS, ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. Doesn't happen often, but it can. Unfortunately, it can. You know, this IVF process, sometimes you can have complications. The hyperstimulation actually happens after egg retrieval. Like Judy's case is classic. After egg retrieval, sometimes what happens is your body starts to release chemicals that can make you feel full and bloated. When it becomes severe, sometimes you can throw blood clots and have shortness of breath, which is why it's very important you go to a doctor that knows what's doing, that's aware of these complications so it can be dealt with and treated. I mean, I'm so glad we came out to the other side, but this is just to say, you know, this process is not complication free,
Right.
Because the front end, Judy was exemplary. Right?
Yes.
She did not complain.
No issues.
She actually had no symptoms of, no issues, 0 issues. But then the back end, boom, we had this complication.
And have we not had you to call or, you know, keep in close watch? Even the doctors at the hospital didn't know what was going on. And until we told them we had egg retrieval. And then they were like, oh, but had we not had the information and didn't know, they were confused too and were trying to figure out what was causing this.
Right. And, you know, not to scare you guys, but it can happen.
Yeah.
And most cases, it's very treatable. People come out at the other end, but just something to be aware of that hyperstimulation could happen with IVF. Okay?
But it's rare.
It's rare.
I don't want people to think
It's
that
rare.
happens
It's
to
rare.
3 people.
Right. It's quite rare. I'll say the severe cases, which is what Judy had, probably less than 1%. But it can happen. It can happen.
That's because you're so special.
Yeah,
Judy,
because she's
so-
special. So we got through that, right? And then it was time for the transfer, right? The embryo transfer, because we had the results. So now Judy's part was done. Judy recovered. Now our focus was on Brat.
Right. Before we continue, can you peek at that to make sure people are able to hear us good and everything else? Because we can't read it because it's kind of far away.
Hey,
And I would hate for it to be rolling. People like, turn it up. It's something that
Hey,
you can't hear you.
y'all. Yeah, they look like they hear everything.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. See, they're doing all the work. I'm sorry. Even though they're my guests. So now our focus was on Brat to prepare her uterus to receive the embryos, okay? And this is a process called a frozen embryo transfer, where Brat had to take medications to prepare her uterus. But first, we had to take a look, right? We had to take a look to make sure inside, and that was a process.
Yeah, that was a little rough.
That was a little rough.
My little chicken converse was like, no man.
What is it called?
Hysteroscopy.
I had to have a hysteroscopy.
I think Brat cursed me under her breath.
Yeah, for the first time I probably cussed out in my head. I didn't disrespect her, but because I guess some women can go through it and just take a volume or a pain pill or something. I tried that. That didn't work with my body. It was kind of painful. I was grabbing the walls and stuff, but we came through it.
Right.
But thank God we did that because we saw that I had a polyp on my uterus, which isn't healthy when you're carrying,
Right, exactly. We want the uterus nice and clear, right?
Mhm.
We don't want anything in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So we always take a look before we put those precious embryos in. And when we took a look, even though it was painful, Brat, I'm glad we did.
Me
Because
too.
we found you had polyps, right,
Yeah.
that needed to come out.
Yeah.
So off to Dr. Jackie you went.
Off to Dr. Jackie I went. And then she found 2.
Right, she found 2 of
She
them.
found 2, and I think I had a period that lasted like 2.5 weeks.
Right.
And I never knew why. So thank God for all of these processes because I found out a lot about my body. My period became normal. Of course, I don't have one now. Ooh, thank God. But it became, normal again, and I had the polyps removed so I could have a clear uterus.
Exactly. So that was the process. First, we found out Brat had polyps. Then we had to take it out. And then we can start preparing you for the embryo transfer.
Right. And before that, we found out that my fibroids weren't near my uterus,
Exactly.
so they weren't like dangerous
Right.
to the baby.
Right, which is why I felt very strongly that I think you can carry.
Yeah.
Because fibroids, just to segue, are very, very common in Black women. Very, very common.
Mhm.
And what's key is where is it and how big is it, right? So just because you have a fibroid doesn't mean you cannot have a baby. Doesn't mean you cannot get pregnant, right? If the fibroid is in the way, that could cause problems. Those need to come out. But fibroids that are not in the way, fibroids that are not very big, for the most part, we say just leave it alone, right?
Yes.
A lot of people do well with fibroids as long as it's not in the way and it's not very big. So a fibroid does not mean you cannot get pregnant, doesn't mean you cannot have a baby. I really want to impart that information. It's very, very common in the Black community. So the process for Brat was to take medications to thicken their lining, which was a series of pills. You just took the estrogen pills. Took that for about 14 days. And I'll never forget because you came in, because what we do is we take the medicine and we want to make sure you responded, right? So for Judy, we're looking at her ovaries. For Brat, we're looking at her uterus, right? We're looking at her womb.
Right.
And I remember you were like, do we have to do the probe? I was like, that was the best way. But then once we put it in, we were all like, oh my gosh, it's like textbook.
Yeah.
It was really nice lining. So we were, this was all internal conversations. And I can tell you, I was like, I think we may have a a shot at this. I think women have a shot at this because your lining really looked textbook. Even though you have the fibroids,
Right.
your lining looks beautiful.
And you gotta take your medicine right, guys.
You have to take your
I
medicine.
kind of like messed up at one point and I had to stop and then start over.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So once we saw the lining look good, we started taking those dreaded shots, but important shots.
Yeah.
Right?
Then I had to start taking shots in my booty.
Yeah, she did.
The top right quadrant. Exactly.
She's
on my
little
thigh.
location.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. It was your butt first, and then it was your thigh because you were at work and I couldn't get to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then we did the embryo transfer.
Ooh.
Brat, what was that?
Ooh, Jesus Lord.
Brat doesn't like pain.
Yeah, Brat don't like pain.
Brad doesn't like pain, but Brad doesn't like anything. Yeah, she didn't like the hysteroscopy. She don't like the, the
It's like
ultrasound
when you
thing.
feel that stuff up in your body, it feels different than just being in your vagina, like the wand. When it goes in your body, it totally
You don't
different.
like the one either.
I don't like the wand either, but the wand is tolerable. But the little thing, the scope and stuff that goes up, you need to be put to sleep for that, in my opinion. Some women can take it, this woman can't.
With the embryo transfer.
Yeah, so when the first embryo transfer, I didn't know I should have been put to sleep, but I tried it
Yeah.
because some women do it
Some
awake.
people, I'll say most women do it awake, but a certain subset of women,
Yeah.
it's just too painful. And
Yeah, I'm one of those women.
Yeah.
I think I was so stressed out, so nervous.
Yeah.
I had to drink a gallon of water.
Yeah.
And
So
then
we can see.
Yeah, and then they won't let you pee, y'all.
Oh,
You have to keep that water in you. So I'm worried about if I'm going to pee on the doctors all on the table. There's so many things that I was worried about that I shouldn't have been worried about. I was just tense. And when the doctor was trying to insert the embryo, it was getting stuck. There was like a hump or something there.
right.
And trying to get over that hump was hell, okay? Like, that's when the pain, I was like, I can't take this. I was getting real discouraged, like, I'm not going to be able to do this. It hurt too bad, And I was like, okay, maybe I can go back another day and just get put to sleep. But then, I asked could I go pee because I wanted to relieve some of the pressure at least. So she said I could pee a little. I couldn't pee out the whole thing, but I could go pee a little. So when me and my wife went in the restroom, we kind of talked it out. And I was like, I'm here to do this. I can do this. We're going to do it, and we went back in and we finally got it through.
Correct.
Dr. A finally got it through. And I was like, woo, thank God.
It was almost like a mental talk where, because once I think you relaxed,
Yeah.
went right in. So, so we put an embryo in.
And we didn't know what it was.
They didn't know what it was. I knew, but you guys didn't know. And 10 days later, we got positive results. Right, so we were all very, very excited.
But the numbers were low.
Numbers were on the lower
That's something
side.
I don't really know much about.
Right.
The numbers. They were only in the hundreds.
They were in the hundreds, but that usually is actually not a bad number.
Okay.
Depending on the lab, 50 and above is good.
Okay.
What's more important is the trend, meaning we want to make sure it's increasing every 2 to 4 days.
Okay.
So the first number, we like to see certain levels, but what's more important are subsequent numbers. Make sure it's going in the right direction. So we were optimistically happy, cautiously guarded, right? Because, as I said, what's more important is the next number. And then the next number, I called you. And then, unfortunately, it wasn't great news.
Yeah, it went down.
It went down, and we followed it down, and it was an early loss, unfortunately. Brat, do you want to talk about how you, because I remember the phone call.
Yeah, we recorded. You came on the show last night.
Right.
I mean, it's crazy because you're so happy and you're so excited, and the anxiety is just crazy, and you're nervous, and then so to get the call. And it's you're definitely not thinking you're going to say the numbers went down because we're trying to stay positive.
Right.
And my wife was like, we having a baby, we buying clothes, we keep saying we just been speaking positive stuff. And so it was very depressing. I tried to take it like a champ and just take one to the chin, but you know, I couldn't help it. Immediately, my heart was broken. Like, yeah, like it was no feeling like that. It was really sad.
Right. It's very sad, and I want to say that I know it was hard that day. It was hard. Okay, some tissue. It was hard. Oh, it was hard. And I remember the phone call because Brat was very quiet, but you know, miscarriages happen. Even with an IVF, with a normal embryo, nothing's ever perfect. Natural pregnancies could end up with miscarriages. Inseminations could end up with miscarriages. Early miscarriages, late miscarriages. Oh, this is sad. I'm sorry. It was very sad. But I think it's very important to know that it doesn't have to paralyze you.
Right.
Right? Because I remember telling you, you know, Brad, this is really sad, but, you know, we have more, fortunately.
Let's have more eggs.
Right. Let's move on. More eggs, right. But it's important to grieve, though. It's very important to grieve. It's important to reach out to people, because you would be surprised how many people have had miscarriages.
Right.
Early miscarriages, late miscarriages. And talking to a therapist could be helpful. Talking to someone about it could be helpful because miscarriages are very, very common, even in IVF, even in when we know, okay, this is normal. Nothing's ever 100%.
Right.
What's important is you get help if you need it. Talk to a therapist if you need it. Don't let it paralyze you,
Right.
and you move on. And that's what we did. Because I remember, right, you were very, very quiet. I could tell that the energy shifted.
Yeah.
I could tell the energy shifted. But I remember also saying, okay, you know what, I mean, I can't even imagine how devastating it is. But it's important to not let this break your dream. To not let this paralyze you. And to say, okay, you know what, definitely can grieve, but we're going to move on. We have more embryos. We're going to move on. So then, you know, after I think it was a few months, we decided to go for transfer number 2. This time asleep.
It was 1 month.
Was
right?
1 month?
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty quick. Yeah.
Right, and we decided this time we will put you to sleep.
Yes, yes. We all decided I was going to sleep this time.
Right. And, you know, obviously you weren't there. You were asleep, but, you know, the embryo transfer process was as smooth as pie. It went right in.
Yes.
There was no difficulty. And,
Yes.
you know, most people are awake, but for some people, it's okay to be asleep. I've done a number of transfers asleep. You have to do what's comfortable for the patient.
Yeah.
And, you know, we learned that, okay, continuing to sleep was the best way to do the transfer, which is what we did the second time. And, you know, 10 days later, we got the results.
And we got super high numbers.
We had very high numbers this time. Again, the trend is more important.
Okay.
Right? So we got the numbers. The numbers
They're
are
in the
higher.
thousands.
Right. They were, like late 900s,
Yeah.
thousands. And we kept following the numbers, right? Because that's more important. And we kept
Right.
going up and up and up. So this time, no unfortunate phone call, right?
Right.
We were very excited. And it was time for your first ultrasound.
Yeah, and we didn't tell anybody because we didn't want to get all excited or tell people, and we just wanted to make sure we were in the clear
Right, exactly.
before we told people.
Right. And I never forget the first ultrasound.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. How did you feel during the first ultrasound, Judy? No, sorry, Judy first. Happy.
It was like a little circle. I guess because I've done it before. I was like, I knew what I was looking at. She was like,
Right.
What is
I
that?
thought we had planets.
You can't say, well,
I was like, what is that?
Right. And we were just so happy and so excited. I mean, everything was hush hush. Everything was like low. We didn't want to tell anybody, celebrate too much, but we did like 2 subsequent ultrasounds, and we could see the progression, we could see the growth of the baby, and it was so much fun because you didn't know what it was, right?
Right.
It was still almost like a guessing game, but it was just such a pleasure, just seeing
The
the
whole
journey
journey
come
is
through.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was such a pleasure.
It's like all the bad stuff we went through is so worth it.
Right.
You know?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Could you repeat that, please?
All the bad things that you go through, it's so worth it once you end up with like a little baby in your belly, like I have a whole person in here, and it just makes me so happy. People are like, "You're glowing! Oh my God, you have the pregnant woman glow or the mother glow," and I'm like, "No, I don't." And they're like, "Yes, you do." It's, you know, when I feel them kick or just feel anything, it's just like, oh my God. Or when I do ultrasounds, it's just like a whole different kind of happy.
Right.
It's a whole different kind of experience, and I'm super emotional. It makes me cry all the time, but it's just like it's amazing. I don't know. It's my little miracle drop in there. Like I feel like he's a miracle, you know, like because some people my age don't get to have children. I know people younger than me that want to have children and can't have children. So I just feel completely blessed, and you know, I'm just grateful to God, grateful to you, Dr. A, Hope to Hope Fertility, Dr. Walters, like everybody, my wife, everybody who's love and supports me and, you know, keeps us like motivated, you know, to not give up.
Right. I think it's very important because especially when doing fertility treatments, I don't know if you remember, first time we met, right, you said, well, I heard sometimes it may not work the first time. And that's true. Mm-hmm. Some women have to go through multiple IVF cycles. I mean, we're very fortunate. We only did one IVF cycle, right? And we had multiple embryos. But some women go through this, we may end up with nothing, right?
Really?
Yeah. Some women, we end up with nothing. Sometimes no eggs, sometimes no embryos, sometimes no normal embryos, right? Some women end up with nothing, and you have to do it again. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to
all the processes, all the medicines, all the shots.
Yeah. Some people will do IVF multiple times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Sometimes, you know, when that doesn't work, you might have to use someone else's eggs. That's what we call donor eggs. Right. Sometimes you might have to use someone else's uterus. That's surrogacy. So I think it's important that I'm very glad you said that. Don't give up. If this is what you really want, you may have to pivot. You may have to do multiple times, but it's important to not give up if this is your desire. And it's okay to stop too. I do want to say it's okay to say,
take a break,
or say, you know what, we are happy being child free, or we're going to go the adoption route. But just know it doesn't have to paralyze you if failure happens the first time. Because when you had your loss, you could have said, you know what, I'm just done, I'm not doing this again, because it's devastating, but
it is devastating.
It's devastating, but I think if this is truly your heart's desire, you want to be a mother, it's important to dig deep and say, you know what, I'm going to try again, I'm going to move on, if you have the resources to.
Yes,
I have the resources to.
I'm just pregnant, beautiful, just pregnant.
So don't give up. Don't give up. That's, I think, what we're trying to say. If this is your heart's desire, you may have to pivot, you may have to try again, but there's always hope. Okay.
Hope fertility.
Right. So now, Brat, you are in your 3rd trimester.
I am, my 3rd semester. For those of you that have something to say about that.
That was pretty funny. How has your pregnancy been?
It's been awesome. I just try to take everything in stride. I mean, your body changes a lot. It does things that you never knew it could do. Like I have like a few abnormal liver tests. There's nothing ever wrong with my liver, but sometimes things happen. I have carpal tunnel in both hands, where it feels like no circulation in your fingers, so you can't really feel that much, and sometimes they're on fire. I have a patch on my thigh that's like almost like numb, and that's been since day 1. My ankles swell, my toes sometimes look like little Vienna sausages, but I'm just thrilled. Like, I'm thrilled because it's the process of carrying a child. So, you know, whatever happens, I'm just grateful that I'm still here and just blessed and healthy, and I have amazing doctors, you and Dr. Jackie and Dr. Collier, like, and my wife, she my doctor at home. She takes care of me at home. So I'm just thrilled at every little thing that happens. I try not to complain. Like earlier today, I was like, oh my God, baby, my fingers are going to explode. And I was like, she's like, what'd you say? I said, oh, nothing, I'm good. Like, it's just a part of it. And I know once the baby comes, that'll all go away. So I just want to cherish every moment and every little thing that happens.
Right. So Brat is under the care of Dr. Jackie, her OBGYN, also high risk.
Yes.
You know, because when
and Dr. Lipscomb.
And Dr. Lipscomb, right.
Yeah.
So because when you are in your 40s, what we call advanced maternal age, I don't like that term geriatric pregnancy.
Oh, girl.
I actually don't like that term. You know,
We don't like it at all,
like
but
that term.
that's what they're saying.
That's the term. But when you advance maternal age, I think it's important to know that pregnancy is not so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes high risk, right? So it's even important prior to pregnancy to make sure you're in tip-top shape, meaning your health.
Mm-hmm.
If you have high blood pressure, make sure your blood pressure is under control. Make sure you're taking your medicines. If you're diabetic or if you have any medical condition, it's important to make sure those are controlled because pregnancy could make those conditions worse,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure prior to pregnancy, especially if you're older, if you're more mature,
Mm-hmm.
Jackie is corrected me, if you're more mature, that you all those conditions are what we call optimized, meaning well controlled.
Mm-hmm.
It's important to take your medicines, important to take your prenatal vitamins. It's
Yes.
important to go to all your visits, follow your doctor's recommendations, because when you're in your 40s, you're at high risk of diabetes, high blood pressure, having a C-section, so it's preterm labor, and just badness that can happen. So it's very important that prior to pregnancy that you're in optimal health, meaning good health before starting this journey.
Yeah.
And which is why before you even started, I had you go see a high-risk doctor
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure,
Yeah.
we checked all the boxes to make
You had me go to a cardiologist.
I did. I really
A
did.
cardiologist.
I really did.
Yeah,
I
everywhere.
did.
Maternal fetal specialist.
I did.
Goodness.
And I'll do it again.
I was hooked up to machines like, what machine is
I
this?
know, I do.
Yeah.
Because it's important, because
Yeah.
pregnancy in your 40s is not, it could cause complications,
Yeah.
right? Just so you have carpal tunnel,
Mhm.
you just want to make sure you're aware and everyone's on board. You have a team that's ready to take care
That's
of you.
important.
Right,
The
because
team.
we want your baby and we want you to be alive and healthy and well
Yeah.
throughout this journey.
Thank you.
Of course. So I think, I'm just so grateful for you guys sharing your journey. It's truly an honor.
We're grateful for you.
Of course, thank you so much. Hopefully, people have learned from this journey, because
Some questions?
sure, let's take some questions. I think that's great. Okay.
Let me see.
All right.
Let me see if I can pull this up.
Won't you try your other phone? Can you see it now?
See if it's up now. Still not up.
Yeah.
I wonder what it is.
I don't know. That's so weird.
They set it up, not me.
Right.
Okay. So let's read some of the questions.
Is your Wi-Fi on, beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
It said couldn't refresh feed. Okay, so
If it's not too personal, how many times did you go through the embryo transfer process?
me?
Yes.
Twice.
Correct.
The first time I was awake, I went through the process, and then the second time I was put to sleep because my body needed to be relaxed and I didn't need to be tense, and it was so much smoother for me the second time around.
And for the doctor.
And for the doctor.
It was truly like night and day the second time around. It took maybe 1 minute to get the embryo in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
When you told me that, I was like, woo!
Yeah, it took like a minute, like it just straight past.
Woo!
Yep, that was it. That was it.
God.
It was just amazing the second time around.
Will you have another kid after this?
What's the Wi-Fi here, Dr. A?
Hope it's okay.
Will I have me? Will I have another kid after this?
Mm-hmm.
I think because of my age, it would probably be healthier for me to not carry again. If the doctors say I can, I may. It's not. I haven't said no to it, but I just want to be safe for myself and my child and my family. So, if I can, I might. It's not something I've said no to, but because our little one is gonna need a play date. So I don't know. It's a possibility, maybe not. We'll figure it out.
Is there a particular stage that when you get to, you can't experience a miscarriage?
No, there isn't. Unfortunately, miscarriages could happen very early. They could happen throughout the pregnancy. I mean, we have different terms for it. It becomes a miscarriage, a stillbirth. God forbid, I don't want to say that, but that could happen. But unfortunately, you could lose a pregnancy at any stage during when you're pregnant. So, I mean, after we see a heartbeat, sometimes we're more reassured. But unfortunately, miscarriages still happen after we see heartbeats.
Okay. Do you work with patients out of state?
I can. So out of state, we can do a Zoom call, and then when you're ready to start treatment, you can fly down. So that's definitely a possibility.
That's a good question. Did your diet change?
See, you trying to ask me questions that's
No.
gonna put me on the spot.
No, that was a question.
You know what? My diet did change, and it's supposed to have changed even better than I've changed it. But my craving has been for Harold's fried chicken. So when I did get my liver levels checked, my liver doctor said that, because I have a doctor for everything now, my liver doctor said I should probably change my diet some more and eat baked meat and kind of stay away from too much red meat and eat vegetables. So, because that way then they could see what's making my liver levels abnormal. It could be something that's in my prenatal, she said. So it could be different things, but we're going to start with changing my diet. And it's been fried chicken for me, though. Fried chicken and vegetables, you know, I still try to do good when it comes to like sides. Yeah.
But since you're doing well overall.
I'm trying.
Oh, well, I can see the question now from my other page.
Maybe because it wasn't on the Wi-Fi. I opened
No,
it.
I had to switch pages.
Oh. Okay. You're not there.
Can I have IVF at 53?
So here's the thing. When you are menopause or post-menopause, you run out of eggs, right? So we unfortunately cannot use your eggs at age 53. However, we can put someone else's eggs inside your uterus. So the uterus, for the most part, doesn't age. Uterus, that's why you can put an embryo in the woman who's 51, 52, 53, and she can get pregnant. So I will do donor egg up to age 55. So yes, you can. It's just unlikely I will be able to use your eggs because, again,
you won't have any.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, they leave. They know they really leave.
Right. I'm glad you're saying that because sometimes when I say that, it's not received. It's not received well. Sometimes I think patients think we're not telling the truth.
It's a little gnat.
There's a gnat around here.
Yeah.
But it's the truth. You do run out of eggs, unfortunately, once you hit your late 40s, early 50s, even your mid 40s, it becomes very challenging.
Will you be having a natural delivery or epidural?
I feel like you read these questions because I'll be having an epidural.
You're having a C-section.
I'm having a cesarean section.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Because she doesn't want to push.
Because I don't want to push. I do have high blood pressure. It runs in my family. But it was, what do you call it? It was under control and my medications were proper. And so I don't want to push because that's a strain. And I don't want my hoo-ha to go open so wide. I just don't know if it'll. I'm having a cesarean. Let's just leave it at that.
I explained to her that a woman's body does that and goes back together, but whatever beautiful wants is what we doing. So if she wants a cesarean, that's what we do.
Yeah, some people want to push and some people don't.
I know, and that's fine.
Okay.
I support that.
Okay.
I have one ovary. Is it possible to have this treatment at the age of 38?
Oh yeah, yes. As long as the ovary has eggs and follicles, I've had multiple patients who've had surgery where they take out the ovary, who've had babies. One ovary, one tube. Fortunately,
Really?
Yes, we're at this We have so much technology now that that is not a problem. So yes.
After delivery for someone over 40, are there any additional health concerns? I really want to do this process and be healthy afterwards.
Yeah, so sometimes some people could have high blood pressure that persists after pregnancy. Some people could have diabetes in pregnancy that persists. So all of those are elevated. So it's important. That's why it's important to have a good team that can keep an eye on you. So those are all things that could happen after you have a baby. If you didn't have high blood pressure, you could have it. If you do not have diabetes, you could have it. Sometimes some women, after they give birth, they can bleed, what we call a hemorrhage. Those are all things that could happen after you have a baby.
Will you transfer 2 embryos for twins?
Oh, remember, Brat, you asked me?
I want twins.
So,
Because twins have to share everything, right? How does that work?
sometimes, so
They're
there,
twins, right?
I do have twins. I have twins that were naturally given to me.
Right.
My God, I did not do anything because so most IVF doctors want you to have a healthy, normal baby. Can we put 2? Of course I can put 2 in. It's just that with twins, it becomes a high-risk pregnancy. Sometimes twins can come too early. When a baby is born a little early, sometimes that's okay. But sometimes when they're born too early, think of it as all their organs are not well developed. They could have problems with their brain, problems even eating. Sometimes you have to feed the baby down a tube because they don't even know how to suck. Their gut is not developed. So all of that risk is elevated when you have what we call multiple twins, triplets. So the recommendation is 1 healthy baby. Sometimes, depending on age, 2 can be put in, but really 1 is best. 1 is best.
Do you still love ice?
You know what? I do still love ice, but I haven't been craving ice since I've been taking my prenatals. I take like 3 or 4 prenatal vitamins a day, and I don't eat ice the way I used to. So it could have had something to do with my iron, but I never had any iron issues either. But I used to crave ice every day. It had to be shaved ice. I have an ice machine at everywhere I go. All of my jobs, everybody's home that I visit, I have an ice machine there, but I just don't use it anymore. I miss it, but I don't crave it.
Did you do PGT testing on the embryos? Is that the thing?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
did do the.
We did all the testing. We did everything we needed to do.
Yep,
Yes.
we got our embryos tested after they were made to make sure that they were all normal. That's how we wound up with 8.
Correct.
Because initially we had
19 eggs.
fertilized. We tried to fertilize 17.
17. So you had 19 eggs, 17 fertilized, 8 embryos, 4 were normal.
Okay.
Wow.
Yep.
So speaking of PGT, so based on age, it could be a good idea. I say could, because not always, right? But for young patients, I mean, this is a discussion you will have with your doctor. You may not need it. So it's important to know that PGT doesn't have to be for everybody. For Brat and Judy, it was for them, and I think it was appropriate given their ages. But just know that you don't necessarily need that if you don't want to. It's not a blanket statement, just so you know.
But what does that test do?
So what it does is it tests for chromosomal abnormalities just to make sure the embryo has the right number of chromosomes, right? Because conditions like Down syndrome, conditions like what we call monosomies, where you're missing chromosomes, could cause either miscarriages or babies with abnormalities. So it screens for that. Also screens for gender, right?
Okay.
So that's an added benefit for some people. Some people want to know what they have. So it screens for the chromosomal abnormalities and gender.
Okay. Okay. So they're asking questions about insurance. It was quite a few.
that also, yeah, so the best thing would be to make an appointment just because I don't know anything. I have gotten in trouble, so I'm trying to stay out of trouble at Hope Fertility because I have my practice manager and an admin team who could answer all questions about insurance. That I don't know, unfortunately.
Can I have IVF after you get your tubes out?
Yes, IVF was actually invented for tubal disease.
Really?
Yes, the first IVF baby, because IVF is by bypassing the tubes completely.
Wow.
IVF
That's
is
a good one.
intended for people with bad tubes. So if your tubes are taken out, if your tubes are tied, IVF is for you.
Wow.
Mhm.
And you would never know.
I never knew that.
That is actually the perfect condition for IVF.
Wow.
If you had your tubes tied, let's say you're in a new relationship or you change your mind, right? Because I see all these kind of patients. IVF is for you.
Wow. I didn't think you could have a baby once your tubes are tied.
I mean, you can, some surgeries you can put it back together, right? But I'll tell you, depending on your age, that may not be a great idea. It's better to move on to IVF, yes. So after your tubes are tied, if you change your mind or if you're in a new relationship, gotcha.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great news.
So do we need to? I think we need to give them news about the grant. Yeah.
So, Brat and Judy, graciously, we're giving, because I think one of the biggest elephants in the room is the costs. IVF is not cheap. It's not
They
cheap.
asked that in the comments. They wanted specifics, but I don't know. I guess because I know everybody's thing is different.
Right, exactly.
So I didn't want to quote ours specifically because I don't know if ours is normal or abnormal, or I don't know if it's a man and a woman. If
It's a different price.
Right.
Yeah, like
so I didn't
it's
want
different procedures, the different
Because
medicines.
all that was ours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad because I can give you a range. So let's start. Some insurances cover everything.
Mhm.
Some insurance cover nothing, right?
Mhm.
And depending on what you do, depending on your dose of medicine, there's always a range, right? So if you're paying cash, it can range anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000, right? But again, it all depends on the medicines you're taking. It depends on if you have insurance. It depends on if you're testing the embryo, right? Because sometimes you don't test, that could be cheaper. So it's important to get an individualized price, because I don't want to say, because like they said, they can quote their fees, but it may not be applicable to you, right?
Right.
Because you may be someone who doesn't need as much medicine or needs more medicine than you.
Right.
You may opt not to test your embryo, so that's a different price. So it's best to get an individualized price, but depending on where you go, maybe 10 to 15, but again, depending on where you go, depending on your center, depending on what you want to do.
And that's per time, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Per time.
Every second.
Every site, right, exactly. But we're
You
happy
say
to
every site?
No, like every
Every cycle.
IVF cycle.
Okay.
Right.
So each one.
So if we did it,
Like the first time it didn't take for us, then you have to do it again, and then you pay again. Is that how it goes?
So you pay for an IVF cycle, and sometimes if the embryo doesn't work, you have to do another transfer. That's another fee, but it's
Right.
not as high as the IVF.
Got it.
Exactly, which is why this is a very individualized conversation.
Right.
That's why I was saying I didn't want to quote it, because I know that the IVF cycle can be that the eggs didn't get retrieved properly, so you have to start that over
Exactly.
Right.
versus just having to have
Right.
another transfer.
Exactly. So that's why everyone's different. Everyone's different. So I can give you a range, but it's best to just ask, okay, what is it? What do I
For
require?
you individually,
Right,
yeah.
exactly. But the good news is, because we know this is expensive, in Brat and Judy's honor, they're announcing a grant, $10,000 to give an IVF cycle. Very grateful for this opportunity, because someone in need, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
At least to me, it's expensive.
No, it is.
Someone could have hopefully their dreams come true, have a miracle, because this is a miracle,
It
have a
is.
blessing. And I've been getting a lot of DMs. How do we enter? How do we enter? So the application will go on the Hope Fertility link tomorrow. Be a link to apply. We'll close it in 2 weeks, and then we'll announce the winner. So please look for the application, the link tomorrow, where you can apply, and we will announce the winner in a few weeks. But very
And
grateful.
you have to be following Hope Fertility's page.
Yes.
I made that.
She
I made
did.
that part.
You have to
Because
follow
I
Hope
feel like
Fertility's
if it
page.
looks right, you have to support the business. If I don't want, I just don't want somebody random get it that doesn't follow or doesn't support. So
Yeah.
right. So that's
To be a believer.
one of our
It's
requirements.
requirement.
Yeah. So the link will go up tomorrow, you guys.
It's up tomorrow.
On this page, Hope Fertility.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna be up for
2 weeks.
Right.
And then we said we're having a roundtable talk and trying to figure out how to pick a winner.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We'll announce the winner.
Announce the winner.
I'm so excited about that.
Right. It's very exciting. It's a way to give back.
So thank you. It's going to make somebody's life so happy.
Yes, it's really a miracle. I love what I do. I love my job, and I love helping.
And we love you. Oh my God. We don't know what we would have done without you.
Thank you so much.
You're definitely a blessing, and we appreciate you.
It's very sweet.
Yeah, for real. Are you shutting us out now?
Let's say so. Any final thoughts before everybody left to follow you? By the way, everybody.
Good.
Wow. So any
One of my final thoughts would be if you want to go through the process. What's the first one called?
IVF.
IVF.
IUI. Oh, IUI.
IUI or IVF. Hope Fertility is where you should
Oh,
come.
that's very sweet.
I would not refer or recommend anybody else for this process.
Thank you.
They were loving, nurturing, kind. They gave us hope when I really, because, I miscarried, so I kind of was like down in the dumps, and I feel like if I didn't have the support of them, like I don't know, y'all. It was a depressing situation, but I decided to turn it all around and just come right back, and and I'm pregnant now. I have a top 27 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
27 beautiful. She keeps the weekly calendar.
Mm-hmm.
27 weeks of having a little boy. Very excited. If you have a dream and you want to have a child, do not give up. I just found out you can have a child with your tubes out. I definitely didn't think that was possible. So if you have any questions, please call Hope Fertility or stop by or make your appointment and ask Dr. A all the questions because she has all the answers.
Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's very, very gracious of you. Thank you for the grant. And, I'm grateful to do what I do. I'm grateful. And thank you, Dr. Jackie, for referring that.
We love you, Dr. Jackie.
They're actually very, very nice people.
Thank you.
Even though they are famous.
And
they're
Dr.
very,
Kim Lipscomb.
very, very nice people, exemplary patients, and I'm very grateful that you came into my life.
Thank you. You never get rid of us. Ever, never.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.